Good morning. It is a little after 6:30. I'm generally up and ready to go early and on time, and it's really interesting to really come to understand what life is like without needing to be somewhere or do something at a specific time. Last night I was out with my kids. We were riding our bikes. My gosh, those bikes are just our saving grace right now. Such a wonderful way for us to do something together that we all really enjoy, getting some physical activity. But we were out on our bikes, and my daughter wanted to go in one direction, and my son wanted to go in the other direction, and like a little bit of arguing ensued. And I just said to them, "We don't have anywhere to be tonight. We don't have anything special to do tonight. We could ride our bikes for the next 3 hours." And they both just looked at me like, oh my gosh. And it is very, very strange. I don't know if there's ever been a time in my life that I can remember where I didn't have to be somewhere or do something. I think that time has always kind of ruled over all of us in that way. And that's not to say that we don't have things to do right now. Many of us are still working outside of the house or working from home, and we do have, deadlines and other activities that are somewhat time sensitive. But on the whole, I think we have been, more or less removed from this idea that there is somewhere to be, that there is something to do. Very, very strange. And I find that it's a little bit anxiety inducing sometimes. It can feel a little bit like we're all somewhat untethered. So I'm thinking this morning it might be nice for us to just practice a little bit of breath work, a little bit of acupressure, and some meditation to help kind of collect ourselves again, to keep us from feeling so untethered and out of our bodies and a little bit more in our bodies. Yeah, good morning. So we're gonna get started, I think, this morning by just kind of sitting and observing our breath. Okay, this doesn't have to be anything special. You don't have to be sitting or in any position. You can lean way back into your couch. You could lay down on the floor in your bed. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, and just for maybe 10 rounds of breath, observe what it's like this morning all by itself without any manipulation. There's no wrong way to breathe. Just observe what is actually happening right now with your breath, with your mind, in your body. Pema Chodron talks about getting in touch with the raw sensations in the physical body. So take notice of how things are really feeling without trying to attach any kind of a story to it. You might say, my breathing feels shallow, my tummy feels a little off. Maybe it's my muscles are sore, my jaw is clenched, any old thing. Just take notice. Maybe 2 more breaths here. Good. If your eyes are closed, go ahead and float them open, flutter them open, and let's take our hands and we're going to bring them to kind of where our armpits are, just kind of in that tender spot. So on me, it's like right about here. So it's just before the armpit, like on the side of the chest. Okay. So you might cross your arms over you and look for that point on either side of your chest. You're gonna know you've gotten there because it's gonna feel a little iffy, a little strange. Maybe it's really tender. Okay, these are lung points in traditional Chinese medicine. Lungs are tied to grief. And right now, I think we're kind of experiencing just this big collective shudder of grief, right? There's so much grieving going on for loss of life, for loss of our normal day, for loss of our ability to do anything to help besides sit back at home. So, the grief that we're all feeling collectively is very, very real. It's very heavy and tangible, I think. These are these points on our sides of our chest are affectionately known as the grief buttons, which sounds very weird. But when we're grieving, we're not necessarily breathing very deeply. Okay, if you've ever experienced massive grief, you'll know that sometimes the breath doesn't go very far in the body. It's basically stuck in the chest. All right, so let's press into these tender points. And it might feel good to roll the head and neck around. Every time I press into these points, I get a little I notice the tension in my neck. I mean, it's probably always there, but I notice it a little bit more. So take a moment just to kind of move your head side to side as you press into these little points on the sides of your chest. And now we're going to stretch our breath out a little bit. So let's breathe out all the way, starting with that exhale. Breathe out through the nose if it's possible, but maybe you're breathing out through the mouth. Pause at the bottom. And then breathe in as much as you can. Pause at the top. And then breathe out again. Pause at the bottom. Breathe in. Pause at the top. And breathe out. Pause at the bottom and just kind of keep that moving, just like that. The in-breath, the pause. The out-breath, the pause. You might walk your fingers around on the sides of your chest a little bit, looking for another tender point if the tenderness is dissipated in that initial point. Check in with your jaw. If it feels clenched, wiggle your lower jaw around a little bit. And maybe we'll take another 5 deep breaths here. Good. And when you feel ready to release, release. I always like to wiggle my fingers around after using my hands in any way for an extended period of time. You might interlace the fingers, flip the palms and press them forward. And just take a couple breaths, just sitting here with yourself for a moment. Notice your breathing now. Usually after I practice that, my breathing feels a little less restricted and a little bit more able to flow into my whole body. Good. All right. And then I had a mudra in mind for this morning, a mudra that's really helpful for calming down the mind a little bit. So I think one of the things that keeps our breathing shallow in situations like this is the rush of thoughts, right? We have all of these thoughts passing through that feel really big and really scary. And this is a nice way to kind of ground and to soothe the mind of all of the thoughts. So this is Kalesvara Mudra. And it's actually really pretty. Your hands end up looking like a little bit of a heart. So we're going to take our hands and bring them together. And then you're going to fold your index fingers down so that the knuckles touch. And then point your thumb away. So can we all see that? Just like that. And then the other fingers are going to fold down as well, except for the middle fingers, which will continue to extend up, and your middle finger pads will come together. So it's going to look like this. Index fingers folded, ring and pinkies folded, middle fingers extended out, and thumbs extended out. The thumb points or thumb pads will be pointing maybe straight away from the middle finger pads. And then we're going to hold this in front of the heart, just like this. Okay, and you want to have a little bit of pressure here between the fingers. You want to have those elbows out nice and wide, all right? But let's see if we can make this a little less severe. Sometimes it's like, and I don't necessarily know that that's what we're going for here. I think it's more of just a little bit of pressure to feel the contact between the hands, not to like stretch anything necessarily. Right, so let's just sit here for a few moments. Maybe as you come into this, again, you take that head around in just a couple of circles to relieve the tension at the back of the neck, at the upper back. Maybe you want to take a look up, point the chin up just for a moment or two to stretch the underside of the jaw. And in yoga, we think about our being as having different layers. And so our outermost layer is our physical body. And then underneath the physical body, the next layer down is the body that is fed by breath. So this is our energetic body. And then the layer just underneath that is the mind body, right? And the mind body is where all of our thoughts reside. So just taking a moment to notice the buzz of thoughts. It's like a swarm, maybe it's like a lot of thoughts. Maybe it's just a few thoughts bopping around in there. And just take notice what things are like in your mental landscape this morning. The quantity of the thoughts, the speed and movement of them, the types of thoughts that are popping around in there. And I've been taking some classes with my teacher from New York online these last few days. And she talks about your heart being kind of like a wildflower field, but your mind being this golden temple that needs to be kept clean all the time. So thinking about kind of sweeping our minds clean a little bit here on your inhale, acknowledging all the thoughts that are buzzing around. And your exhale is kind of like a broom. All right, you're imagining that you can kind of sweep things clean. It's not to say that those thoughts aren't there. It's not to say that they won't return. But just for that exhale, imagining that you can kind of sweep them out for just a moment, focusing in on the sound of your exhale. Maybe your exhale falls out of your mouth if you like to do that, if it feels good to you. Let's just take another 10 breaths or so with this mudra. The inhale to see all those thoughts, to observe and acknowledge. The exhale to allow them to loosen a little bit, to move away just a touch. Good. Last couple breaths. Wonderful. And then just release your hands out of this mudra. Give your fingers a little wiggle. And let's just roll the head around a little bit here. I always notice that my neck feels slightly tense after practicing mudras because we're holding our arms in a really exact position for a period of time. So just breaking up some of the tension. Maybe sticking your tongue out, wiggling your shoulders around. Maybe you want to take a deep breath in and a big sigh out. Maybe you want a couple of those this morning. Deep breath in. Big sigh out. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me this morning. I really love seeing all your names there. We are offering live classes, Abide teachers and myself, coming up really soon, actually starting tomorrow morning. Annie Siegel is offering her slow flow meditation. It's at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. My Sunday morning yin class that I've been teaching for almost 6 years now, Intuitive Yin Flow at 9 as well. Check out our feed, the Abide Yoga feed, for more information and a link to sign up for those classes. And also check out our YouTube channel, which has shorter little nuggets of classes available. It's really nice to see you all, and I hope you guys have a really fantastic day. I'll see you later. Bye.